we weave community in COVID times.
When the pandemic hit in early spring 2020, our meeting house was empty while we created a structure to hold the warp and weft of community.
Helping each other through and figuring out community with laughter yoga.
Oh, man.
And tech host meetings.
Many lifted up the unexpected blessings of this year, that due to being on Zoom, people living at distance and those with mobility or accessibility issues have been able to worship at FMC. Technology has in some ways brought more of us together.
We needed help with stress. Weekly relaxation sessions ease the way.
Oh, and bring your arms back. Put your head up and stretch your face out. You open your mouth and stretch very gently and breathe in. And then relax your face and breathe out.
Many felt alone, so we took safe walks and talked on the phone. Weaving community took on new forms. We hosted FEMS, the Feminine Empowerment Movement Slam. This time, it was online and as amazing as always. We mourn and remember online at the Trans Day of Remembrance. We care for our neighbors through the Material Aid and Advocacy Program, collecting items for hygiene kits. We worshiped outside with the Quaker Voluntary Service Fellows in Dorchester, finding the light by firelight.
Some of us felt we could gather and witness. Others worked from home to address injustice, to educate ourselves, and to live out our values. We formed pods to protect the vote. We wrote letters. We gather in an ongoing white privilege book group, and Friends for Racial Justice brought a minute of exercise to us.
Reflecting on the past year, Forge notes and lifts up that COVID revealed what has long been true. A stark and deep systemic racism runs rampant in all aspects of U.S. society and was evident in racial disparities in all aspects of COVID. Then, in spring 2020, the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd brought an ever sharper focus to U.S. anti-Black racism and an inspiring and challenging uprising of Black Lives Matter that called forth a strong and vibrant and brave multiracial movement for justice, even in the midst of a pandemic. In June 2020, Friends for Racial Justice brought forward to Friends Meeting at Cambridge's business meeting a minute of exercise around race, racism, and whiteness. The business meeting engaged and struggled with that minute and found its way to clear to approve it. This work is joyful, deepening, challenging, and requires stamina, love, and persistence. We, Forge, all on Forge, are grateful to be walking this journey together and with all at FMC. And in closing, we share this quote from the Jewish writings and passed along by a Quaker from Friend in Minneapolis. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it.
You're getting police escort.
Some friends addressed the climate crisis in ongoing New Story group gatherings that explored a more holistic story not unlike the stories of some native cultures, although integral to major scientific changes and faithful to much of our Western spiritual traditions, particularly the contemplative tradition. Some friends participated in Extinction Rebellion actions, including the Red Rebels.
Welcoming and saying goodbye happened online. We said goodbye to David Dunphy, Facilities Manager, L.J. Boswell, Resident Friend, the Eller family, Anna, Ben, and Rory, and those who died this year, John Starkey, Lita Newdick, Curtis Jones, Robert Carter, Marilee Wheeler, Barbara Ackerman, and Hugh Barber. We said hello to Kathleen Wooten, our new facilities manager. We welcomed new members, Tim Barclay, Veronica Barron, and Chaz Kelch.
In the midst of troubled waters, we weave community. We teach, we learn, we deepen our spirituality.
I am your host for this session of Quaker Basics. What do you do during meeting for worship when we're gathered together in a meeting for worship? And in fact, a term that you will hear sometimes, people will talk about a gathered meeting or a covered meeting, referring to, again, probably people would have a lot of different ways of describing this, but the sense that the meeting really did gather together and something happened. And we might all describe it differently, but we know that something happened in that meeting.
When you sit week after week, quieting yourself, trying to reach down to that deep core of goodness that we all have in us, if there is something in your life that is not right, it will come up. And if you're, certainly I, who am a fixer kind of person, make it go away, I immediately try to solve it intellectually. And what they said in the early Friends journals was, just sit with that disease. Sit with your ill ease. Don't jump at the first answer. And over time, the right action will come.
So I think it's really difficult to describe all of what happens in meeting. I think because meeting for me is about listening to God within us and to God in other people. And when I go into meeting with too many expectations or too many plans, then I hear exactly what I expect to hear and I do exactly what I planned to do and don't hear anything other than what I already heard beforehand. So I'll talk about a couple of the things that I do at the very start of meeting, but the aim of both of these things is to stop doing them and to do what I was not expecting to do to begin with.
One of the things that I think about a lot is because of the culture that I'm raised in, which is, white middle class American culture, very head oriented, very, sort of think it through, logic based, understanding things mentally. And I have increasingly tried to make sure that I bring my body with me when I come to meeting. And that I ground myself in the rest of my life as well, more than just trying to have everything that I do be eyebrows up. I think one of the things that's different now because we're doing Zoom is that, it takes a while to get that sense of being surrounded by people and being in a body of people when you're on Zoom. I find it pretty easy to have meetings where you're talking to people, but that sense of sitting in silence with people, that takes a little bit more work. So I do things now. Sometimes I light a candle at the beginning of meeting to just kind of help myself realize I'm in a place here. I also have a practice because we have a large enough meeting that even in grid view, I'm not getting the whole meeting on my screen. I've decided that the people that show up on my screen have just been served to me. and that those are the people that Spirit is giving to me to care for during that meeting. And
who speaks in a Quaker meeting for worship and why? AKA, is it really silent? Well, we will find out in just a moment.
It becomes more like a question of deep listening. Where are people's hearts? Where are people in the meeting? I often go over the faces and I hold them in the light. And it's something of a resonance.
I think sometimes I also feel that once I have discerned or feel comfortable enough within me that it is not just something of myself, not something I have thought up for myself, and it is not just for me. I will speak even if I am the first person to speak, because I know that maybe I'm the first puzzle piece on the table that day, in a way. And I very often find by the end of a meeting, at least within my heart, many of the messages have sewn together into some form of tapestry that puts forth a broader idea of just the thing that was within me.
Something that I try to think about before I do stand up to speak, and that is, how's this going to be received? And if I hear my saying we too much as I'm thinking about what I want to say, then another voice, much more wise than me, says, who's this we that you are talking about?
We are so excited to have you all here for the latest experiment of family worship. Every time the grown-ups go to worship, it's a little bit different. And every time we come to family worship, it's a little bit different. And we hope that this is a time where we can all sort of have fun together, get to know each other a little better, and also get to be spending time with Spirit together and let Spirit sort of soak into our lives a little bit.
The view behind me is the actual Sea of Galilee on a calm day. Let's start out like they might have started out, like Yeshua and his disciples might have started out on a very calm day. So hardly moving at all. You are the wind and you're just, you're just there. You're not moving very much. Maybe like a little breeze, a light breeze. So you can just move a little bit, if it helps to imagine that you're a tree or a leaf on a tree with just fluttering a little bit from the wind. But now the weather's changing. There's some clouds appearing on the horizon. And the wind is getting a little stronger and stronger. And now you let your whole body be that stronger wind. Now that wind is getting even bigger and stronger and more fierce, like a grizzly bear. You are roaring. You're roaring down the top of mountains. You are blowing down anything that's in your way. You're picking up the water on the Sea of Galilee and you're creating a monster wave, one after the other, trying to get over the side of a boat. But then a mysterious force, power, suddenly stops you. And your strength, your power begins to get diminished, smaller and smaller and smaller. And you return to being just a mild, everyday kind of breeze. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly.